Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the wonderful bazaar put together by our incredible Booster Hut Club run by parent volunteers. We are about to begin our original oratory event. In original oratory, the speaker has prepared a 5 to 7 minute persuasive or informative speech ahead of time on a topic of their choice. Let's welcome our timing officials once again to begin the event with the first speaker.
Today is the day. Early Tuesday morning amid an academic competition, and you have been chosen to represent your entire team. Above you, the question flashes, and evidently no one knows how to answer it. So you lean forward towards the mic and breathe in, breathe out. Pasu. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. No, your peers scream out in desperation. She meant pass. You attempt to help them out. Sorry, my accent is very strange. Before this entire conversation turns into a tennis match of back and forth rallying, a voice from the back of the room finds its way to center stage. I think you mean strange. Unfortunately, it's tough to understand a person who isn't a native. You watch as the crowd goes wild at the Caucasian. That guy, someone starts, is so wise. And you nod insecurely, because that guy really did sound wise. Feeling absolutely dumbfounded, or rather, just plain dumb. All you can manage in the corner is a simple, sorry. The situation here is clear. You sound funny. To them, you're different. Your accent, as the name suggests, puts an accent on a certain aspect of you through speech. And that, alone, is enough for them to doubt you, even if you don't deserve it. Accent discrimination. For foreign citizens living in English-speaking countries, this growing problem begs to be addressed. But to what extent do these differences in our speech dictate how others perceive us? A study published in 2010 at the University of Chicago took a look at exactly that. They took average citizens, like you or me, and got them to listen to a collection of sentences. Afterwards, the sentences were graded as to how likely they were to be true. They wanted to know, does having an accent actually pose problems with the way we perceive others? And the answer was, yes. The study showed that people rated the sentences as being less true spoken with an accent than without. The psychologist stated that it was just a natural thing we do. This natural thing we do can cause dire concerns. In 1992, a Californian company dismissed an Indian employee because they felt his accent was bad for its image. Such a controversial action had its consequences. It caused a wave of immigrants at the time to choose between speech classes or exclusion, the latter of which no one favored. In effect, even immigrants who were fluent at a language still had to surrender their cultural identity and resort to speech classes to reduce bias. But does that mean, then, that if you have a foreign accent, you're not speaking correctly? The big question is, what is standard in the first place? Psychologist Milroy J. states that this standard English is an idea in the mind, rather than a reality, a set of abstract norms to which actual usage may conform. So if accents are simply ideas placed into the modern mind about what is normal, then does that mean we must conform to these ideals? According to Scottish actor Sean Connery, to cultivate an English accent is already a departure away from what you are. And if 007 expresses emotional difficulty in accent removal, then imagine what it must be like for the rest of us, mortals. Beyond the film world, Diane Markley, a professor at the University of North Texas at Denton, researched how accents affect the hiring process, saying that it is almost impossible to speak any language acquired later in life without an accent. She surveyed 56 people who hire for a variety of corporations by making them listen to speakers with accents. And after asking them to identify where each speaker came from based on their accent, she asked the people to select job categories for each speaker. she found that all 56 people gave lower job categories to accents that were correctly identified. According to her findings, a person can speak flawless English, but the accent causes them to be seen as someone who can't do higher level jobs. So the doleful truth is simple. Today, judging based on accents is the last acceptable form of racial inequality. But Markley emphasizes that it is not okay to use an accent as a proxy for discrimination based on national origin. In fact, an accent is a part of who you are and connects you with a particular part of the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you yet another question. In the world today, filled with an eclectic mix of cultures, should accent discrimination even have a place? And the answer is simply no. Now I know what you natural debaters are thinking. Point of information, but accents can be serious hindrances to communication. And I agree. It's a well-known and attestable fact that accents can cause misunderstandings. But as an international school student whose ears have heard the world, here is what I am saying. I don't want something as insignificant as accents to get in the way of someone's success. Having so much stress on how we say something, rather than what we say, sometimes means that we overlook what's really important. But the truth is, you should be able to be a journalist, or journaliste, or giornalisto, regardless of your accent. So today, let us allow the words to speak louder than the accent. And tomorrow, we'll be surrounded by a diverse group of people from all over the world whose voices are proud to be heard. Now, of course, realistically speaking, there will always be those who don't understand, those who will be led by this natural thing we do and judge you. So, if anyone should ever discriminate against you for your accent, despite constant affirmation of your abilities, if they laugh at your strange way of pronunciation, if they find problems with a piece of you that represents where you're from, well, you tell them that yes, your accent may be strange, but you're proud of it. And if they still don't understand, well, you can always just shrug and hand out a universal sign consisting of one hand and one finger. Because let's face it, you're the wise one here. Thank you.
Once upon a time, there were 16 handsome lads and bonny lasses living in the heart of Scotland without a care in their hearts. Every morning, they kissed their mums goodbye and made their way to a cozy red brick schoolhouse to learn the ways of the world. Sadly, this is not actually a fairy tale, and there will be no happy ending. We are, in fact, in the town of Dunblane. It is March 13th, 1996, and by the end of the day, all those children and their teacher will be dead. Murdered in cold blood by a deranged psychopath with 3 fully loaded handguns and a grudge. Fast forward 2 years to 1998. The government of Tony Blair has successfully introduced legislation to ban ownership of all handguns, as well as strict regulation on rifles and shotguns. Before Dunblane, gun violence in Britain had followed America's lead, trending upwards year after year with thousands of people shot to death. Today, the UK has the lowest murder rate of all G8 industrialized nations. A year later across the Atlantic, the story continues, but it's far, far from over. From Columbine in Colorado, the horrible tale continues in 2006 in Nickel Mines, Pennsylvania. In 2007, it is repeated at Virginia Tech, then in 2009 in Binghamton, New York. In 2011 in Tucson, Arizona, and most recently and horrifyingly, in 2012, with a mass shooting in Aurora, Colorado, followed by the deaths of 20 first graders and 6 of their teachers in Newtown, Connecticut. Those who console themselves by calling these killing sprees isolated incidents caused by madmen ought to take a closer look at the numbers. Because believe me, they are terrifying. 300 million, the approximate number of firearms in the US, more or less 1 gun for each American alive today. 32,000, the number of deaths caused by firearms in 2011. 1,800, the number of Walmart stores in the US that sell both guns and bullets. Low on milk and sugar? Running out of ammunition? Walmart has it all. Gun-related profits almost doubled last year. So the world's largest retailer is obviously giving its customers what they want. There's nothing funny about the notion that Barbie dolls can be purchased 3 aisles over from the ammunition counter, nor that American children die from gunshot wounds at nearly 12 times the rate of 25 other industrialized nations combined. First prize for cluelessness, however, must surely go to the NRA, who sent the following cheerful tweet to thousands of followers last year. Good morning, shooters. Happy Friday. Weekend plans? The date? July 20th. 12 hours later, James Holmes opened fire in a crowded Aurora movie theater, killing 12 and injuring 58 others. Incidentally, the shotgun and semi-automatic rifle he used were legally purchased and registered in his name, according to his constitutionally protected right to bear arms. Oh yes, the good old Constitution. We can all recite it when it comes to our right to do this or that, even if the Second Amendment, so beloved by the gun lobby, was ratified over 200 years ago. But we still cling to the notion that America is the world's one and only frontier nation. Even after Newtown, I doubt that suggestions to change the last line of everyone's favorite anthem, from the land of the free and the home of the brave, to the more factually accurate, land of the trigger-happy and home of the terrified, would get much traction. Because we Americans love our guns. That much is clear. So much that one of the gun lobby's catchiest mottos is that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, which may sound pretty good, until you consider the facts. Research actually shows that contrary to the NRA's mantra that owning a gun makes a person safer, the very act of having a gun in your house makes it far more likely that someone in that house will die or get hurt. Simple as that. The debate over gun control is not only extremely divisive and emotional, it is also central to many other critical issues facing Americans in 2013. Concerned with racial inequality? You should know that guns kill far more Black Americans than white ones. What about economic disparity? Guns kill far more poor people than rich ones. Gender inequality. Victims of domestic abuse are 5 times more likely to die if their abuser owns a gun. Whether you are pro-choice or pro-life, it is currently harder to get birth control and reproductive health services than it is ammunition. Is it not absurd that lawmakers in Washington should be more afraid of my uterus than their guns? Last time I checked, my reproductive organs haven't killed anyone. As for addressing the national health care crisis, if the 30,000 victims and more than $1 billion spent annually as a result of people shooting each other doesn't constitute a national health care crisis, I don't know what does. I really do believe that the Constitution is the defining element of American democracy. At the same time, I believe it is time for our elected representatives to acknowledge that the context that led the framers of the Constitution to write the Second Amendment has changed, especially since the most advanced weaponry of today is no longer a musket and bayonet. Are we really so afraid of the US government that we feel a need to protect ourselves against a government-led militia? Unfortunately, all indications show that post-Newtown proposals for effective gun control will once again get stuck in a ridiculously bipartisan Congress and result in feeble, watered-down versions of the reforms we really need. It is time for our generation to speak with a common voice and demand that our leaders put partisan politics behind them and choose life. Thank you.
You've seen Facebook messages that start like this. A kid is dying somewhere in Africa. Followed by a shocking fact or a disturbing picture, this message becomes personal. It will end with, like if you have a heart. My friends will share this, or in some cases, like this, or die. You think you have a heart, and you definitely don't want to die, so you do as you're told. Click and share. Congratulations, you've done your part. The world is a better place because of what you did. Feeling satisfied and a little knowledgeable, you move on with your life. This is slacktivism. What passes for community service these days? With the internet, any slacker can be an activist or slacktivist, the combination of the two. There are millions of slacktivists and millions more fit for the job. If you're tired of chain messages, you can always sign a petition on change.org, like a charity organization on Facebook, or retweet a statement by Oprah. Heck, you can even change your profile picture for a day. The options are limitless. Okay, so maybe more of us are exposed to injustices thanks to the power of the internet. However, internet activism has a major flaw. It gives us a shallow idea of compassion as our contact with the oppressed and the poor starts and stops at the computer screen. As a result, slacktivists don't really understand what injustice is. For us, injustice has to be a narrative. Injustice has to have faces, preferably of young African kids, forsaken by their country and waiting for the help of some foreign savior. For this reason, most of us will not look for humanitarian crises on the Washington Post, but on Facebook. Last year, Facebook was in love with invisible children and its brainchild, Kony 2012. The official video on YouTube had 112 million views. Twitter had over 5 million tweets a week after the video went viral. Calling young Americans to act against a bad guy with a twisted mind, invisible children did something incredible. In a website usually packed with parodies of Gangnam Style and Call Me Maybe. At least, that's what we thought. But did it? Today, Joseph Kony only has about 250 soldiers, and he left Uganda back in 2006. Moreover, the Ugandan army, the good guys in the fight, is dealing with accusations of rape. By deploying 100 US troops to support the Ugandan army, we were directly helping Uganda's dictator, Yoweri Museveni, a man who is corrupt to the core and responsible for keeping child soldiers of his own. For more critical citizens, Invisible Children's video oversimplified a serious conflict to create an emotional narrative. It was also way too late. Here's an issue we could have focused on instead: drone strikes. We need a dialogue on US killing machines in the Middle East right now. As early as 2009, the New York Times reported that US drones were killing terrorists, suspects, without due process. In many cases, innocent bystanders were killed too. For reasons I'll never know, this news never made it to my newsfeed. Last year, Salon magazine reported that US missiles killed 168 Arab children. Still, the news was not important enough for Facebook. As of now, 4,700 Arabs, 3 of them American citizens, are dead. Where's the heartfelt video on that? We have to ask, how can a world that is so connected be so disconnected from issues that matter? Anthropologist Sarah Kendzior points out that Invisible Children's popular video set the standard for mobilizing us. Why? Subjectivity. That temporary combination of sympathy and shock prompts us to act without analyzing biased information. We rank world issues based on a dramatic video or a moving petition. Most of us will not do extra research on our own and wait for online campaigners to supply us with facts. The outcome for a social cause is inconsistent. The end result for us is usually the same. We feel good. And then move on, oblivious to the fact that our help meant nothing to the refugees in Uganda. In the words of writer Teju Cole, what Africa needs more pressingly than Kony's indictment is more robust democracy and a fairer system of justice. On top of that, Africa needs policy advisors, infrastructure, and an educated population, not our money or even our sympathy. Until we learn to walk away from Facebook activism, we will continue to ignore this fact. Consider, by the end of this decade, we will inherit the problems created by the previous generation. Our actions will carry weight and could affect thousands of lives for generations to come. In the meantime, the world population will keep growing, 8 billion by 2025, 9 billion by 2043. By then, caring, actually caring, would not be optional, but compulsory. If you want to care, don't just feel it. Act on it. Teach English for free in Jakarta. Volunteer at a homeless shelter in Manila. Join a campaign against corruption in Taiwan. The options for real change are also limitless. And when it comes to changing the world, the internet is as useful as we allow it to be. I'll admit, spending 30 minutes watching the Kony 2012 video made me feel like a better person. But then I went to Cambodia, built houses, and talked to the villagers. Their plight was painful to see. And after working for a week, my hands were full of cuts and splinters. I was exhausted. But then I felt more than good. I had done something. By looking straight into the eyes of the people I was helping, people who would live better lives because of the houses I helped to build, I felt happy. Happier than I could have ever felt by just clicking like. Thank you.
Saturday morning, my bedroom door creaks open, and from the corners of my crusted eyes, I see an armed blob approaching. It's my worst nightmare. Mom! Glove, mask, mop in hand. She means business. Rise and shine, sweetheart. No. In my house, it's 일어나야 되지야, which in Korean means, get up, you pig. She thinks I have the magic touch. Boo! Feces. So it's not uncommon my mom goes all Spartan in my spotless room every couple of hours. Her obsessive over-polishing reminds me of what German poet Friedrich von Schlegel called a good society. But to him, a good society is usually nothing but a mosaic of polished caricatures. Which leads me to my concern. When the compulsion to cleanse becomes all-consuming, we trap ourselves in this mosaic. So we need to do some spring cleaning, but this time on our views of over-polishing. First, we will evaluate how our excessive search for sparkle in others and ourselves can soil our relationships, sully our productivity, and wash away our well-being. And finally, let's find some ways to clean up this mess and polish for excellence. Now, ladies, we know that if our man doesn't smile like George Clooney or sparkle like Edward Cullen, he can forget it, because anything less does not impress. We also know that search for the spotless partner sets us up for disappointment. However, what is more insidious is when our search for the spick and span prevents relationships from even forming. Psychologist David Clark of Oxford University found that over-polishers often conceal their weaknesses to feel less vulnerable. and appear more infallible. Paradoxically, this behavior actually hinders likability. Now, no good oratory is complete without an MTV reality show. And don't worry, Snooki ain't a part of this one. Instead, we are talking about something more profound. Catfish, a show about online dating and dishonesty. On episode 3, we met Kim and Matt, whose 10-year relationship never left the chat room because Matt was too ashamed of his weight to meet Kim in person. We over-polishers run the same risk of being left alone feeling cold when we refuse to self-disclose in an effort to appear stainless. But all the while, an excellent connection could have been possible. However, the more pressing issue is when we over-varnish our lives, jeopardizing our well-being. In January, my mother scalded herself with boiling water as she attempted to rid her precious pots and pans of non-existent bacteria. She was hospitalized for a week with severe second and third degree burns. Her quest for untarnished Teflon left behind blotches of branded skin, marks she can never wipe away. And as she laid in bed, gazing at her scarred skin, she lamented, all for some pots and pans. But the scars from over-polishing can be even larger. Oxford graduate and award-winning novelist, Professor Alistair Clare seems successful and in control. But according to close friends, Clare held exceptionally high expectations and deeply feared criticism. So on the day before his new book was to be published, Clare shocked all by jumping in front of an oncoming train, killing himself and his shining future. Dr. Sidney Black of Yale University attributes his suicide to the stress he put on himself because he failed to leave room for failure. Granted, not all over-polishers will share my mom's or Claire's fate, and striving for one's personal best is beneficial. But the danger lies in passing the threshold of healthy excellence. Because over-polishers spend 80% of their efforts on just 20% of the results, Dr. Justice Mansky of Harvard Medical School argues, the more we try to make our lives immaculate, the more we miss opportunities and forsake productivity. At that point, our behavior is an impediment. And even if we do obtain the A+ or the promotion, we do so in spite of over-polishing, not because of it. Now, I know changing old habits seems impossible, but we have to start somewhere. First, instead of zooming in on that microscopic speck of dirt, we need to fix up our perceptions and find value in the already spotless things around us, like his broken laughter, or her crooked smile, or a parent's warm embrace. And second, we must let go. Professor John Kay of the London School of Economics and author of Obliquity contends that in our world of uncertainty, the happiest people aren't those who pursue lives structured around flawlessness, but rather those who take small, yet related steps of indirection for spontaneity. Sadly, my mom still does not understand what actor Michael J. Fox knows well. He says, excellence, I can reach for. Perfection? Well, that's just God's business. But if we learn how to polish more effectively, maybe we will all be able to lead lives of personal excellence that not even perfection can outshine. And then maybe my mom and I can finally have some brighter Saturday mornings. Thank you.
The cell phone, personal computer, GPS, remote control, iPod, laptop, Wi-Fi, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google. Over the past 50 years, there have been countless inventions and numerous pieces of technology that have changed our lives. However, there is one that has stood out and has been rated the #1 invention that has redefined the way we live: the microwave oven. Initially introduced in 1967 at a price of what would have been $3,000 today, this item is now found in the homes of every single one of the people in this room. What makes this machine so popular? Why have we incorporated it into our lives as such a necessity when it was originally considered to be a scam? Think about it. That machine has revolutionized how we eat, when we eat, and even who we eat with. What would have originally taken quite some time to buy the ingredients, cut up the vegetables, measure the liquids, heat the stove, and cook for half an hour now only takes a couple of blueprints to open a package, press a button, and still have enough time to Instagram a selfie in front of the microwave. #food, #girl, #homemade meal. Inventions such as the microwave oven have given us more time to pursue other things worthy of our precious time, right? The reality is, we have simplified our lives, but we still find ourselves staying busy, doing nothing at all. We are living in a microwave society where we want everything in 3 minutes or less. Technology has made us used to getting what we want, when we want it. I remember when I was little, family members living in other countries sent me money and handwritten cards. But now, we send gift cards online and write out each other's walls on Facebook without having to wait 2 weeks. We used to have to wait until the end of the semester to find out our grades, but now we have Power School, allowing our parents to know the result of a test even before we do. I babysat for my 6-year-old goddaughter over winter break, and I had all these fun hands-on activities for us to do together. Cook with our plastic play set, kick around a ball, or do each other's hair. Imagine my surprise when she pulls out an iPad 2 and proceeds to cream me in Temple Run. It may have started with just a microwave, but now we expect everything else to be done just as quick. How many times have you stood in a line, angry because the people in front of you were taking a minute too long? Or walked behind 2 people in the hallway having a conversation, mentally begging them to speed up? Or refreshed the browser again and again because the page took more than 2 seconds to load? Watching your parents try and use the computer must be painful. We are no longer interested in putting more effort into something if we can have it immediately. Those celebrities you see fighting on TV, we don't know exactly why they're famous, but more and more of them still continue to pop up from overnight fame and continue to be on every screen, billboard, and magazine cover. Those advertisements promising abs in weeks or losing 10 pounds in a month are based on achieving crazy results with minimal effort, usually in the form of a shot or pill. I mean, why waste a year at the gym when you can swipe a card, right? It is estimated that the US weight loss market has reached over $60 billion. But do these methods even work? The truth is, most people who stop taking the medication end up putting the weight back on because a lifestyle change cannot be found in a pill. A study at UCLA found that 2/3 of the people who choose diet drugs, weight loss medication, and surgery instead of exercise and proper diet end up putting the weight they lost back on after 5 years. In sports teams, it used to be that success would come after weeks of hard training with one team, one coach. Now, clubs are created and millions of dollars are spent on new players and a coach with a history of winning. If results don't come within the end of the season and the fans aren't happy, they're simply replaced. Just last year, Ellis Johnson was hired as a coach of the Golden Eagles, a college football team. What happened? He was fired after a single season simply because he could not reproduce results fast enough. We invest in items that should help us complete tasks faster, and have developed a system to make out swiftness to equal success. The quicker you get the job done, the better. Our generation is expected to keep up with a society that believes if you can't have it in 3 minutes or less, it just isn't worth the time or effort. Here's a scenario for you.
Imagine yourself jumping out of bed on a Monday morning. You immediately check your phone for any text messages or Facebook notifications, tweet a good morning, hashtag not really, while running down the stairs. While you eat breakfast, you tap the screen, willing it to load faster before you have to rush out the door to walk, bike, or ride a car or bus to school. Before first period, you've already checked your newsfeed and still go through class wondering if anything interesting is happening online. That is, if you didn't already check your laptop or phone when the teacher wasn't looking. During lunch, you push through the lines as fast as possible to get to your friends. But what do you do when you get to your table? You see people on their laptops and phones huddled around the screen, complaining about the weak Wi-Fi signal in the room. After debate practice, sports, dance, drama, art, music, you get home and open your laptop and immerse yourself in the online world, only to realize you've been refreshing the same page for 3 hours. When you finally can't keep your eyes open, you trudge up the stairs, Instagramming a photo of your bed, hashtag finally, and crash into it. Exhausted, only to wake up the next morning and do it all over again. Sound familiar? It's scary to think we've grown up in a society where a fast-paced life is the norm. But how much of what we do even matters anymore? It may take only seconds to retweet, reblog, or like a post, but add up the time we spend using technology, and the numbers may surprise you. 45% of our time awake is spent interacting with technology. We live in a society where we are constantly reacting to every little thing. Every beep on our phone and every notification on the screen becomes top priority. Being proactive and creating something, being aware of reality, developing self-confidence, and finding a direction in life is overshadowed by our tendency to only react. We live where we want everything today, if not yesterday. Living in a microwave society where we want everything in 3 minutes or less makes us lose the purpose of our actions. Life is not a microwavable meal where we can choose exactly what we want and have it come out perfect. When using a microwave, meals can come out cold in some parts, burn in other areas, or the whole thing can explode before your very eyes. It doesn't take 3 minutes to develop a passion, change the world, discover who you are. Life just doesn't work that way. And we can't afford to go on pretending like it does. Thank you. I have to go out tomorrow. The words solemnly slip from her pink lips. No more games, no more stories, no more fun. Come to Neverland, he simply promises. Come to Neverland, and I will not let tomorrow follow you. She watches the fairy dust float over her head and to the ground. Think happy thoughts, thoughts of childhood, of fantasies, of princesses. Let her fly. Let her brush her fingertips across the clouds and use them as a map to Neverland. Let her imagine. Let her aspire. Let her live her fairy tale. But know that tomorrow will always come. It will come just like that one day that creeps around every year and allows fear to freely wrap its ghostly fingers around us and shake us and shake us and shake us, until the focus shifts more from the number of presents to the number of candles. When we no longer celebrate the gaining of age, but reminisce the loss of innocence. It's like an infection, an illness in which our hearts palpitate, handshake, thoughts cloud, and we beg time to let the next 364 days sluggishly preserve our dwindling youth. These are not symptoms of the flu or the common cold. These are symptoms of Jurassicophobia. Jurassicophobia is the persistent fear of growing older. It is more commonly referred to as the Peter Pan syndrome and affects people who fear and feel unable to grow up. Last year alone, 78 million baby boomers admitted to this fear and proved to all of us that this disease exists and manifests in our lives. As humans, we try to control our fears, but aging is inevitable. Every second of every day, the clock tick, tick, ticks towards death. We fear it because it is relentless. We cannot keep those college applications from coming, our parents from pressuring us into marriage, getting a job, and achieving the impossible standards that lead to our unfulfilled ambition. Growing older encompasses roadblocks that do not allow us to see to the other side. And it is scary to not know what point B looks like, or if we will even make it there. So we turn to doctors, physicians, psychologists, even fortune tellers who boast to reverse the irreversible.
Currently, the market for anti-aging products reaps $291 billion a year due to the increase in diagnosis of gerascophobia. Today's firms are exploiting our fears by falsely promising to free us of them. However, instead of ensuring our youth, they are in fact quickening the process. Dr. Alan Mintz is one of the lead doctors in anti-aging medicine. It is estimated that he has treated at least 12,000 patients with human growth hormone and anabolic steroids, which he himself had been using for 10 years. Many believe this could cure aging. Ironically, Mintz died at the age of 69, 10 years less than life expectancy, causing scientists to question his practice. Unfortunately, he has not been the only one to die from the so-called treatment, and in fact, 100,000 deaths per day are caused by aging. These ideas derive from the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, a nonprofit organization established in 1992, comprising over 26,000 international doctors who are seeking to alleviate our suffering. Their mission statement reads that aging is a dysfunction within the body, which in many cases are amelioratable to medical treatment, such that the human lifespan can be increased. That's it, right there. The lead scientists in the field just boast that we can be medically cured of our fears. But in actuality, our desperation creates this fabrication that fails to allow us to assess the full breadth of our insufficient lifelines. While anti-aging products boast slogans such as reverse the clock, they are merely just reminding us that time cannot rewind, and our only option is to trudge forward. Counterintuitively, these medications are not required to undergo government testing before they are marketed. 43% of those inspected by the FDA lack the proper ingredients, therefore do not work and may have unpredictable side effects. Thus, not only are we being deluded, we are being tricked, deceived, and are more fearful. Reality, we will never find the key to this shackled anxiety. But in hopefulness, we continue seeking. So we turn to technology. Last summer, a team of renowned scientists were put together by the world's wealthiest who are seeking to achieve immortality. The scientists are researching to create a process in which the human brain can be transplanted into robot bodies by 2025. The enterprise reads, "Immortality for trillionaires," and it is expected that within the next 10 years, the wealthiest of us will no longer be spending our money on sports cars and designer bags, but rather, eternal life. Unfortunately, the head scientist also reported that these robots will contain our same thoughts, passions, emotions, opinions, and yes, even fears. We cannot escape. We will constantly live in fear. The only way to cope with our illness is to admit it. So I, Karen Whiteley, stand before you today admitting that I am a sufferer of gerascophobia. I fear that the older I get, the less impulsive I will be. I feel that responsibility will force me to forfeit the ability to do what I want. I fear I'll become less and less of myself because I won't have time to be myself. I fear I'll be cheated into the wrong career path, that I'll be haunted by my mistakes, that my importance will diminish with my youth. I fear I'll no longer be allowed to dream. I fear the day the words, "It's too late," become my life story. Alarm, 7:30. It's Monday. Lineup memorized. Water in one hand, bottle in another. I single off each dose of each medication. Tegretol, Pepsin, Applesauce, Duocardi, Mevacor, Mextol, Restamin, Carbon, Kukli, Permax, Stilton, Pregol, Centros, Bobadrin. Pop, scrub, smear, rub, swallow. Twist the lid closed, pull out the next batch. Prepare for lunch, repeat. You see, our wretchedness will never permit us to accept the predestined. I can guarantee that if water from the fountain of youth ran through our faucets, we would drown ourselves with its taste. So let us become the Ponce de Leon to the world and search for the cure to end the pain brought by this persistent fear that torments our well-being. Let us become Eos and beg for immortality, but not be surprised when the angel of death kisses our cold lips and dawn disappears into desolate night. I know no fairies. I am no conquistador. And unfortunately, I am not a trillionaire. This is not the flu or the cold. There is no aspirin or preventative vaccine. Nevertheless, when a boat leading to a fictional cure comes asking for tickets, I will desperately try to board it in the delusion that my destination exists. However, I would be left forever sailing an ocean of hopelessness, with an ill heart, an aging mind, and a scarred body that conforms to the expectations of this world. Thank you.
Thanks to the OO speakers, XTEM starts at 1:45 today.
Let's have another round of applause for the original oratory.